So we're going to walk through the solution, and I'm going to do just a few extra things within this solution just so we can start to move towards a coherent application. So the first part of this was to, within the courses component, display the courses using ng4, add an event handler to select a course, and then display the raw JSON of a selected course. We are going to do a similar thing in the home component. So just to lock this down, if we go into our courses component HTML, you'll see here that I've added a mat list that has a mat list item. And so I can kind of shrink everything else that's in here. And we are using ng4 to iterate over the courses and essentially stamp out a templated item for every single course. So I'm going to just copy this, and let's go into our home component.html, and we're going to take these course lessons here that you can see in the component itself, and we're going to render these. So what I'm going to do, so that I'm not typing everything over and over and over, and I'm going to just delete this up here. So I just have a mat list item. The first thing we're going to do is use ng4, and we're going to go let lesson of course lessons, and this is going to iterate over. So let's just go ahead and make sure that we are rendering this properly. I'm just going to go lesson, I don't know what's actually in here. So we'll just do a pipe and we'll do JSON. We'll save this. Let's hop into our browser and let's go to our home route here. And so you can see we're just iterating over, we're dumping this out. But we have a title property here that we actually want to bind to. So we'll go back into our code and we'll bind to this, lesson.title. Let's check this out. Here we go. And what I wanted to do is create an event handler that when I select this, then I'm able to capture that and do something with that. So we're going to go click, and we're going to go select lesson, and we're going to pass this lesson in. And we'll hop into our home component, and we'll add in our event handler here, select lesson, which is going to take a lesson. And I'm kind of doing this backwards, I realize. Selected lesson equals lesson. All right, and so you can see here that this doesn't exist. And I wonder what happens if I click declare property selected lesson. Well, what do you know? It went ahead and just added this for me. So let's hop back into our browser, and you can see here that one, it's rendering, but let me go back into my code real quick, or rather, let's go into our template, and I'm going to just do a horizontal rule, which I just use as a, just to kind of segment the layout, and we'll do our favorite pre-tag here. And selected lesson, and we're just going to dump this out back into the browser. And so you can see here that as we select this, this is now showing up underneath. And so I believe this satisfies the entirety of this particular challenge. Let me just double check. Yep, raw JSON of selected lesson. But let's go ahead, and I'm going to do a few other things, just as kind of an extension of our component challenge so that we can see this working. So in our app component.html, we have a side nav here. And if we look in the HTML itself, you'll notice that there's nothing actually here. So what I'm going to do is, because I have defined the path here, so I have a links collection with home, courses, even some icons, a couple different things. Let's go ahead and let's build this out. And so we're going to use a nav element here, and then within this, I'm going to go anchor tag mat button. We're going to set this to class nav link, and we're going to, well, let me just close this off real quick so I can do this in a way that makes a little bit more sense. So now let's iterate over this. And so ng4, and we're going to go let link of links, and let's go ahead and add in a mat icon, and we're going to go link icon, and from here we're going to do link.title. So let me just save this real quick and see where we ended up at. So there we go. So you'll notice here that it's not actually doing much. And so let's wire this up, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more when we get into routing. But at the same time, I think that having something functional trumps narrative arc in this case. So we need to add the ability to link. So in this case, we're going to bind to router link, and we're going to call link.path. And then what we'll also do is we'll go router link active, and we're just going to attach an active class here. So let's save this, and hopefully we can navigate. So we'll talk a little bit more about router link and how that works. But even if we go to, real quick, let me just inspect this. What you'll see here is that if you look right here, because this is active courses, that we have the active class on this. And so if I went in and defined an active class, that I could say, I want this to be red. We now have the ability to navigate from home to courses and back because we built out the navigation using ng4 and as well using property binding. We were able to essentially bind to this router link directive and send in the path. Now let me do one other thing real quick since we're here. If I go to courses component.html, you'll see here that I have a course that when we select it, we are displaying it, but then if nothing is selected, then it's just kind of like null, blah, super boring. So I want to update this slightly. Within this mat card title, what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce a span tag, and I am going to go ngIf, and we're going to go selected course.id. So it's basically saying, is there a selected course and does it have an ID? And if not, else we're going to give it just a I'm going to call it else block. Really, really progressive there. So if it does exist, then we're going to go selected course title, title case. So just what we did up here. And then if it doesn't, then we're going to do ng template, and we're going to define our else block, and we'll go select a course. All right. Let's save this. Let's go back into our application. So what you're going to see here, back to, it's trying to read selected course ID, but guess what? That doesn't exist. So this is where we use our safe navigation operator to say, try to read it, and if it doesn't, then just give up. So now, here, and so let's go and let's add something else in since we're here, and I'm going to jump back into the code, and in the actions I'm going to add a button, and eventually we're going to use this to reset a form, but for now what I'm going to do is select course, and I'm going to pass in null. Let's see what happens. So back here, and so what I'm doing now is I'm essentially setting the selected course to null. All right, so we're kind of moving along, like things are looking cool. So I'm going to cut this off, check it in, and then we're going to go to the next logical extension of this application.